Hey, aloha, love tribe. Welcome to the show. I have somebody with me here who is changing the world with crowdfunding with Bitcoin. He's somebody I've been following, and I set up a tiny little crowdfund thing, but I've been watching how he's changing lives, changing communities, and changing the world with this project. This is Metamick, co founder of Geyser. Welcome, Metamick.
Thank you
Woo.
so much, DJ
Mhm.
Valerie.
Mhm.
I'm honored. I don't know. I feel a little intimidated by this big title. I think, yeah, in general, I am honored about the work that we're doing at Geyser in this space. And I think we do provide a platform where people can change the world. So we are, let's say, helping those who are helping change the world. And so it's a proud thing that we are experiencing, and really excited to talk to you today about, yeah, the projects and the platform.
How did you decide like that, because we look at like Patreon and these other crowdfunding models. How did you, number one, how did you get into Bitcoin? And number two, how did you decide like there's a gap in the market and we want to help create a marketplace, like a Patreon marketplace for people to do crowdfunding?
Awesome. Yes, definitely. So I came at Geyser from several different perspectives. Excuse me. First of all, I came at it from the perspective of, well, I think Lightning is going to be the main tool to scale Bitcoin to the world, right? And as a Bitcoiner, I thought, okay, I was playing with the Lightning Network, and I was thinking, okay, this is a layer on which most people will interact on Bitcoin, because Lightning scales, Bitcoin on chain doesn't. It's
Right.
just the obvious solution. And then at the same time, I was actually working in a different space, in the crypto space, in the Ethereum space. Believe it or not, I was a Bitcoiner, a little bit like fish out of water, and as much as that was an experience that allowed me to actually do see a lot of the shit coining that's happening over there, that I was not happy about. I also did see and notice how much development and how much creative energy was being put around these crowdfunding platforms that had been built there. And I thought, my God, how is there not something like this on Bitcoin and on Lightning? And I'm not a creator myself, but
Hmm.
I'm more a supporter. Like, I love to give back, because I feel like with Bitcoin I've been blessed and empowered in so many ways, and I want to give back to the community. And
Yeah.
so started noticing all these Bitcoiners around the world, so raising funds for all sorts of things, like from films to um, communities, circular economies, to educational initiatives. And I said, well, how do I support them easily, right? People were sort of scanning their QR code, putting it in their Twitter threads, and there was no way to really, see a project, see their development, see the progress, and that's what I wanted. And so I thought, well, there's a platform here for essentially enabling to, sort of see to enable these projects to be properly become alive, um, and enables transactions to happen, and it's going to take the contributors like myself into the project, feeling a part and a membership of the project,
Hmm.
and sort of seeing the impact as it happens. So that's sort of the story that I came at it from. I had sort of this sort of vague general idea that Bitcoin could really um, displace, like not just displace, but like augment the
Hmm.
degree of free floating capital around the world. And only later, so and then after that, what happened is that I met Stelios, my co-founder, which together we kind of made this project happen with a lot of kind of work together, and then the third team member came out as well. But ultimately, the big realization came when we saw that a GoFundMe, Kickstarter, Patreon only work in a few countries, right? I think
Mm.
GoFundMe works in less than 20 countries,
Whoa.
Kickstarter in around 20 something, and I think Patreon in a few more, but with quite a few hops, extra charges, and terrible user experience. And to me, Bitcoin as a Bitcoiner made so much sense, so obvious, that I was just like, how's nobody built this? Like, this is so obvious. And so we built it out, pushed it out as a sort of a pilot project with one single project from this guy named Apata Johnson from Nigeria, who wanted to do a workshop event around Bitcoin in Nigeria.
Hmm.
And we helped him raise $2,000 in just a few weeks. And yeah, that was just that was the end of it. It was the beginning of it, and it got so much traction that we realized like, okay, we have something here. And so that was January 2022 that we launched. Now we're in 2025. A lot has happened since. We've learned a lot on the way. We keep improving and iterating. But what's most important is that we've now contributed over 1.5 million dollars in, well, 42 through 43 Bitcoin. So that would actually be around uh, four $4 million. But like in terms of the dollar amount sent, it'd be around $1.5 million that is contributed peer to peer between contributors and receiver all around the world. And there's so much to say about that, because it is really truly inspiring the amount of kind of collective energy the Bitcoin community is putting towards making these Bitcoin ideas happen and making Bitcoin adoption happen around the world.
Well, and I think what's so important what you're doing, Mick, and so congratulations. Like this is amazing. And we obviously, you're first to market in this space, and I haven't seen anybody else do anything of this nature. A lot of times when you're doing fundraising, when you're trying, whether it's for a business, whether it's a film, whether it's music, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a workshop, whether it's a weekend event, whatever, it's hard to get your reach, right? And so the fact that because a lot of people can just say, cool, I've got my website and here's my QR code and come donate to my stuff. But if you're a part of the community of, Geyser, when, any of us, it's like, oh yeah, I got a couple extra sats or a lot of extra sats that I want to share. It's very difficult for the user to sit and go, I gotta go find this website and this person and do the due diligence and la 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 la. And so the fact that you're able to aggregate everything in one site, I think it makes it a lot more user friendly for the donors and for the supporters, um, and then you get this traction, right? And then you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that was going on. Well, because I thought I was just going to donate to like an educational project, but wow, there's a song out there or there's the thing, and so it creates more stickiness, I think, in the user experience, what you guys are doing. And it's so important that we have platforms and services like Geyser to create awareness and let people know, like, hey, this is the next new project and this is the next new circular economy, or this is the next new documentary about this or that, and I love what you're doing, because it makes like anytime you have friction in any experience, you're going to get less of the desired outcome that you're looking for. Marketing 101, right? Like, how do you make it easy for the consumer to
Yeah.
to get what they want? Um, what's been your biggest success story that you can think of? Like that has just like moonshotted on Geyser.
Yeah, yeah, and just to kind of also mention what you were just alluding to, but definitely, guys are sort of we pride ourselves on being kind of user centric and being
Mhm.
very very focused on creating the best possible experience for our users, because ultimately they are what we consider the heroes. Like the heroes are the Bitcoiners that are launching their projects, that are looking to push Bitcoin adoption forward in some ways or raise funds for whatever impactful initiative, and also the contributors that are making it actually a reality. Um, and so, in terms of like some of the key big success stories, I think it probably would have to be the first round of projects that launched on Geyser in like 2022, 2023. They all were part, or many of them were part of the, um, I'd say call them like the first cohort of Geyser projects. Many of them won the Geyser grants. So these are essentially separate platform that kind of gives funding to some of these early projects, and were funded by some Bitcoiners. Yeah, back in the day, and we're still doing them from time to time. There's still one now around Monster Wallet Connect for any
Mm.
developer out there. But before, it was one Bitcoin, which now is worth $100,000. Back then, we had one Bitcoin going probably for around 15, 20,000.
Oh my
Anyway,
god.
we were doing, I know, crazy.
I,
Uh,
I love that we're at over 100, but I'm also like, oh, I wish I had another kidney to sell when it was at 15,000.
yeah, it's really quite something, right? So these projects were like in the middle of the bear market. They were doing so we had projects that were new, and now they're considered the staple, right? So we had Mi Primer Bitcoin launched
Yes.
on also on Geyser. They won a Geyser grant. They were super small. They were doing a few courses. Then, guys, I think Geyser grants was I think I believe one of their first, maybe their first grant. Right? It
Mm,
was That's how early they were. Um, there were so many projects. There were so many projects. I think we funded over around 100 projects, and a lot of these are the projects that you see today as being like, almost really well recognized. And that's what Geyser is really great at launching new project ideas. So on Twitter, on Nostr, on Facebook, these are all essentially the essentially platforms for individuals mostly, right?
mhm,
And they're essentially your identity layer. And Bitcoin is and Geyser is like a second layer on top of that. And those are project ideas that leverage the social network, leverage reputation to enable funding, right? And so we paired that kind of community funding with the grant funding, and we're able to really power a lot of funding towards these early projects that we're able to then continue growing and become platforms like Mi Primer Bitcoin, but also BTC trading cards. Trading cards first launched on Geyser. We're
yeah,
super proud.
Aladdin, I love Aladdin.
Aladdin was
He was,
absolute.
like, my podcast was the very first podcast he ever did.
Oh wow, he's
He's
a
the shit,
superhuman.
right? He's so
Yeah,
good.
he's an incredible human being and
Yes.
beautiful heart and an incredible talent.
Yep,
And I think it'll become one of the biggest brands in the Bitcoin. And I
yep,
still regret not buying one of the boxes. So the boxes that you could buy on Geyser, you could buy them for $500, right? You can now you now have to the series one now go for around probably 30-40 thousand dollars.
what?
So yeah, it essentially it completely blew out of the water
Yeah,
even Bitcoin as I believe, right? I think so. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. It
Definitely.
it it does. Well, and it's so interesting too, because like, he took something that's a scarce resource, which is trading cards, because he was into trading cards prior to doing Bitcoin trading cards
Yes,
that he was creating, and he was getting all these, um, creatives in the space to contribute. So it wasn't just like him and one artist. It was like, no, how are we going to get the whole community of creatives to participate in BTC cards, trading cards?
exactly.
And so he really, really took the ethos of Bitcoin and ran with that, right? And
Yes.
and I love his success story so much. It just it tickles my heart. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, it is absolutely true. It's that Mi Primer Bitcoin. These are
yeah,
Yeah, and like I think that's kind of the reason why we really launched Geyser is like to enable, and it's really interesting because everyone comes with certain talents and certain skills, and then they meet Bitcoin and they're like, how can I give back
yeah.
and how can I contribute? After a few years of being in Bitcoin, start getting tingly. You're like, how do I get involved, right?
Mhm.
And so that's kind of one of my kind of call to actions for you, if you want to name it that way. It's like everyone has a role to play
Yep.
in Bitcoin, right? And Geyser is a really good place where if you have an idea, if you have like even a vague project, put it out there. I would suggest first get the community's, feedback and see what people say and
Right.
iterate on it. But then it's just so great to see the trust and the momentum around the project showcase on your project and help fuel it even further. We had another success story, I would say, probably this week. We had this project from the University of Sofia in Japan. These
Hmm.
girls that are doing Bitcoin education, but also not just Bitcoin education, it's like literacy program and all sorts. There's actually university students traveling to El Salvador and doing all sorts of educational sort of empowerment courses and also Bitcoin education. And it all started with one really big donation of $10,000 that then
Hmm.
sort of kept on catching momentum. And then I don't want to say, but they raised quite a bit of money. I think over $30,000
Yes.
in just like a week, just from the momentum of people funding and seeing
Yeah.
how important and how good the project was, and that's why Geyser, because Geyser is essentially this kind of compression of force that's made possible by the community to make these beautiful displays kind of become evident and kind of become real, right? That's what a geyser is. It's the community pressure that makes ideas come to life. Kind of that's the idea.
I love hearing that, and I think about that social proof, right? And social proof is one of the biggest, um,
Yeah.
buyer's decision. It's trust and
Yes.
then social proof. And so it's trust in the company, and then you have social proof of the trust. And social proof is trust, basically. And so when you think of buyer psychology, those are the two biggest ingredients of why people will make a decision. And fear, unfortunately, people make decisions based out of fear.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
another buyer psychology metric. Um, how do you, um, because I'm experiencing something right now. I'm being uh, communicated with by an organization that wants to here come support us, la la la, right? And how do you vet, or do you vet to make sure that like this isn't just send me some money in Nigeria kind of thing,
Yeah.
or whatever the scam of the day is, kind of like how are you if able to kind of
Yeah.
cleanse
Really good
that space?
question. Yeah. Really good question, and it's a fascinating question because it's a question that's yeah, both super old, that goes back, the beginning of sort of humanity as a social being,
Mhm.
the nature of crowdfunding, which is social, and I think really the future of the web as it's changing then through different social web graphics and social
Yeah, yeah,
graphs that can be created. But and also to touch on the point, the way that we see the function is trust and reputation of the individual, and you have the proof of work, right? How much
yeah,
work is someone actually doing towards that project idea,
yeah,
and then finally actually the vision and the impact, right? So you want the vision and the impact being good, and then like really a project having impact. Think of Bitcoin trading cards like that. Okay, that will leave an imprint,
yeah.
maybe, right? um, if you like squint and look forward. And so those are three key variables. And if you lack trust, you're only left with proof of work and envision. Well, maybe there's something there in that project, right? So maybe there is something because the person is doing something, but they literally have no social
Right.
reputation. Well, that's likely not going to go very far, right? Social trust and reputation is super important, and there's no there's no sugarcoating it. There's no cutting corners. You have to work on that. You have to build your trust. Um, and then you also have, if you have the social reputation, and you have a vision, but you don't have the proof of work, well, people are like, well, how do I know you're actually fully invested in the idea, right?
Mhm.
What are you doing? What have you done? Like, show me the proof of work, show me the energy that you put in. Why should I invest my money in
Yeah.
an idea that you are not investing in? And then finally, you have trust, you have proof of work, but your vision is just not good enough. Well, in that case, also, so these are three key things that are super important, and these are the three things that we look at Geyser for a project. Like if your product, um, so we try to keep a fairly open approach. Initially, we were super open, anything goes. We've learned actually the hard way that actually some vetting is actually very valuable, really important for the for the for the platform to have a brand that people can trust. Really,
Right.
that's super important, right? So what we do is we have a set of rules: no crypto, no NFTs, sort of no scammy yield things. Uh, um, like we follow sanctioned regulations, so no projects in countries that have sanctioned or are in conflict. Because if there's a war and funds are going to a place,
Yeah.
we cannot at all verify where those funds are going. So we've taken the hard choice of saying, it's probably very, very high need for funds to go there, but Bitcoin can take care of that. Us as a platform, we we think there's much more risk than reward, and us managing that, and also again making sure that the funds are going towards that proof of work and that vision and that impact. We cannot verify under such delicate circumstance. So that's also something we do not do. Um, and yeah, a few sort of rules like this one, like no spamming type of thing. Um, and so we do some filtering based on these things, but at the same time, we do not want to cut off someone who has no reputation
Right.
necessarily, just because they might have a good idea and they might also have a good vision for the future, or have want to have an impact. So that's where we sort of try to leave it a little bit open, and we let the projects. Yeah, we sort of sometimes we also reach out and we have conversations, see where the project is at. Um, but we, as a small team, we cannot do that, to the full extent that we would wish. So hopefully that answers the question. It's a bit of there's basically a system of filtering, and then there's the social graph itself is the filter, because you can see people. Okay, click on a person Twitter profile. I forgot to mention this. You have to connect your social profile to a project in order to launch it. And that's, again, to connect your social profile and see how real you are as a creator of a project.
Totally. And I think, in this day and age, it's unfortunately, we've got bots everywhere. We've got all of these, AIs that are, okay, cool, we're going to blow up this channel or blow up this thing. And so when you're dealing with certain projects that, might be in different countries, it's one thing to say, I'm making an album or I'm making a documentary, and do you like this concept? Cool, great, awesome, fund my project. It's another thing when we're looking at, and again, I'm just correlating this with something I'm going through that's, literally 4,000, 5,000 miles away, that I don't have the opportunity to go do a site visit. And so I'm like, well, who else has done a site visit at this place? Because I do site visits at, another orphanage or another place that I want to support. And I realize, like, yes, you're legit. Show me your books and I will help you raise money, kind of thing. Versus, when you're seeing something where people are trying to raise, like, several Bitcoin, which is a lot of money. And you don't have the social graph, right? But you just have, like, kind of not, and I don't want to say it was just bot generated um, posts, but it's, you want to cover your butt, right? Like, no, like, we are all wanting, anybody who goes to Geyser.fund is interested in supporting the future. It's interested in supporting important projects, of whatever category that you're, excited about. None of us want to accidentally blow our Bitcoin in the wrong spot, right? And so there's different levels and layers, I think, of due diligence that we have to approach, and as Bitcoiners, we know, DYOR and all this, but it's like, so I think that's an important layer. Do you ever, obviously you said you did some, like, you guys might do some follow-ups or, before and afters. Like, to me, everybody loves a good makeover. I always think of,
Yes.
like, the TV shows with, whether it's a house makeover or a person makeover or whatever makeover, a community makeover, like, people love before and after stories,
Yes. Yes.
Can you
Yes.
help us understand, like, how you guys are, um, using that model and sharing your before and after stories for folks?
It's a really good question, and yeah, I agree also on the point on filtering and making sure that projects are. I just do want to mention though something there that I think it's sometimes important to give, like, the benefit of a doubt of projects,
Yeah.
and at the same time, because again, there's all these people that just do not have access to funding. But I agree that there is a trade-off there to be sought, and
Yeah.
we've learned in time that actually there's a really important role in filtering, making sure that the quality is high. And yeah, we're sort of actively working on that to improve that, and any feedback is super welcome as well. In
Mhm.
fact, I did like your idea of having a way to um, to basically be able to, like, uh, so if you do essentially some degree of validation, to be able to then share that with the community through Geyser,
Mhm.
where you can then see what are other people saying about this project, and have others verify it, because we've seen that a lot, with some people actually
Yeah,
going out and doing the due diligence, but then that research remains isolated, and actually it should be spread out, right?
totally.
And yeah, so that, I don't know if you have something to say to that, but the other point you made around showing the before and after, we're working actually on a report that sort of helps to clarify the impact that certain projects are having. Um, Again, we're a really small team, but these things are super important. So the idea is basically that we make the platform really easy
Mhm.
for creators to post updates, and that's sort of what we do is, rather than us, that we are removed also hundreds of thousands of miles from these places, us doing that. And we ask our project creators quite often to share an update. We send messages and reminders, share an impact post. And the cool thing is that impact post goes directly into the email of
Mm.
all the funders, right? So there's a feedback loop. There's that sort of yeah, that is sustained by the creator himself, because ultimately that's what matters. There's no better storyteller than the project creator themselves.
So
um,
so so when the project creator shares an update, anybody who funded that, like, project gets an
gets an email.
email on that particular, and then does that also
100%.
go out to your wider audience or just the people who funded that
Anyone who
project?
follows the project and has an email will receive that email, but the creator also gets to decide, does it go to all my followers with an email, or does it just go to my funders, or this product purchase or something like that. But yeah, that's exactly right. We have sort of enhanced that so that the communication kind of is more creator to followers, so that we don't have to be middlemen necessarily of. But that is super important. Like we mentioned, Mi Primer Bitcoin trading card. These should be into big hero stories, right?
Yeah, and that's what, and I think that's what people, I'm consulting an orphanage down in El Salvador, the House of Life. They set up a Geyser account recently, or I kind of helped them, but
Awesome.
it's their thing. They're just like, oh, we just do monthly newsletters. I'm like, okay, let's think about that. You're trying to catch fish to eat every single day, but you're only putting the line in the water once a month.
Yeah.
Your job as an organization is to communicate with the current people who love you and support you and possible new folks, right? And they're, well, we don't want to bother people. You're not bothering anybody, because guess what? How many emails do you get a day that you don't open? You know? And so if you only throw that line in the water once a month, and if that just gets neglected on whatever, the first of the month or the last of the month or the 15th or whatever, like, you've lost your opportunity to engage and connect with the people who care about your mission and your project. And so you're not bothering people. Like, people will not open your emails if they're annoyed with you, but if you don't send them enough, they're not going to understand what's happening, right? Like, whoa, there was a baby, or there was this new place we built, or there was, we had this success event, or any of it. And so realistically, if you're getting an open rate of, 20 to 40%, you're doing decently with
Yeah.
emails, right? Anything above that, okay, great. But again, it's the more consistency that you can share, like ahas and wins and calls to action, and you know people want to hear that if they care about you, and you're not a burden. Like, they don't want to hear about, here's the next, fat cream for your cellulite. Okay, well, I like that, but not, not everybody needs that. But so I think helping to educate the creatives and the project folks, that, like, the more that you have touch points with your supporters, the better they feel and the better your project is going to do. And so I think overcoming that thinking, like, well, I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're awesome,
Yeah.
and we love you, and we want to hear from you,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely spot on. And we have planned to do much more also on that front, and again, in educating and informing creators to share updates, right? Share updates, show the progress, celebrate every win, right?
Yeah,
Um, because again, you're reaching out to all these people that have already funded you and already do like
right.
what you're doing, right? So absolutely agreed. And
Well,
it's hard work. It's
yeah.
yeah.
It's super hard work, and I love the idea of celebrating every win, but also broadcast your losses.
Right.
Like, what happened? Oh,
Yeah.
there was a giant storm, and so the House of Life right now down in El Salvador, they had it's rainy season, and so there's certain areas of their facility that don't have windows, and so when it rains really hard, well, guess what? Instead of taking care of the babies, they have to go mop up all the water and squish it out. Um, you want to highlight the problems, that you're solving for, and highlight the, like, oh shit, this happened.
Yeah.
And so, not doing it in a constant you want to have a harmony, I think, with your communications of like, yay, the baby was born, and oh shit, there was a hurricane. Okay, awesome. We planted a garden with food. Okay, we don't know how to we need a wheelbarrow to get it to the market, whatever. Like, keep telling people your story, and the more that they get to be a part of your journey, and then however they get to support it, whether I call it time, treasure, and talent. That's what a lot of marketing people call this. Even if you can't donate in Bitcoin, it's like, well, maybe you can, put some posts out there and repost things, and share the story. Maybe if you have time, you can go visit the place, right? And contribute in that way. So I think, the more that we can use, platforms like yours to communicate what's going on with the projects, the more success the projects have an opportunity to enjoy, if that makes
Absolutely.
sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, just retweeting the broadcast. But yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think that the sort of story and getting people to sort of feel part of what's happening, the part of the good and the bad is really, really great.
Totally. Well, check it out. I thought we could go live here with your website, if that's okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So what?
here, we'll go here, and you and I will be here on the side. Um, so for people who don't know, you can go to geyser.fund. You set up an account. You can use your Noster um, address. You can use, how there's a million ways, you can get in and log in. Like right now,
Yeah.
my soul sister, Becca Amelie from Anchor Watch, is dealing with cancer. And what's really neat is we're putting together, different people who want to help her with her cancer fund, right? We've got
Yeah.
an orphanage in Uganda. We've got all of these different projects that you guys can go get excited about. Women of Satoshi Cooperative just did a big event this last weekend. They had a wonderful workshop, and their goal is to teach women about Bitcoin.
And
And
you're close to them, right? You've
I mean, I say I want to interview them. I was talking with uh, somebody about having them come on and do a podcast interview, and I was just like, get somewhere where you can have good internet connection and a video. And she was like, I'll get back to you. And I know they just had this big event, so I was like, let's recap your event after,
right.
when you have time. But this is the issue, like you said, a lot of folks like this, right? Women of Satoshi, for example, um, they're in Malawi. Um, they don't have like a huge social network. They're just doing these little micro events, and you look at like BTC Data with Lorraine Marcel. She's blown it up over there in the continent of Africa, not just certain countries. But you have to start somewhere. And just knowing that we've got all of these little micro projects out there, you guys, seriously, $5 matters. It
Yes.
matters a lot to these folks. Okay. And even if we look at places in, for in El Salvador, for example, because that's a statistic that I understand, the people there make a couple $100 a month. A month. That's a standard wage for many, many folks. So imagine living on a couple $100 and somebody gave you $5 for a project or for, something that you're working on. That's huge. That's a lot of money. And so for those of us Bitcoiners and, humans who are listening, like, you never know, like, depending on where you're making a donation with Geyser or just directly to these folks' websites, like, the differential of purchasing power that our units of account, our Bitcoin or our dollars have, can be life or death for people, can create an opportunity for exponential, um, peace, exponential love, exponential prosperity. So don't think that, like, oh, if I just donate $5 or if I just donate $10 or whatever it might be, it's not going to make a difference. It makes a hell of a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. And so just remember that. And, having the opportunity to go to El Salvador, for the third time and visit the orphanage, visit Murph's Life, visit these different places, every little bit truly, truly helps. And you think like, ah, no, it does. And so Geyser is such a great platform for bringing people together and educating, like, how can we make a difference, and change the world
Yeah,
with Bitcoin?
absolutely. If you want to have a quick, if you search in there and look at if click Berlin, right? Type in Berlin,
Yeah, right. Oh my God. I
because
know.
there's the not the Berlin one, that one there, not the one on the bottom left.
Berlin Walls
So
Fest.
yeah, so this is actually another really cool example of
Oh,
someone
whoa,
who's,
cool.
so this is a local, this is a local El Salvadorian guy who just discovered Bitcoin, right? And he was able to raise if you click on the top right there, you should be able to see that. Yeah, if you click on there, you'll see the total raised.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, it's weird. It's because it says it's a
yeah, if you click on there,
165, but you've got more than this down here. So
yeah,
tell me which one's
if
which.
you click on there, yeah, click there.
There
There
we
you
go.
go.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's a bit in there. So yeah, almost $3,000, and this is the first time he's ever done a crowdfund. This is the first time he's really used Bitcoin properly. And look at what he's done. He's
Wow.
embellished the entire town of Berlin with a wall murales. He brought 20 different artists into Berlin to to paint the entire city, the
Oh
entire
my
town,
God.
I should say, right? And if you go on the updates, you can see the final impact. You're talking about impact.
Oh
Well,
my God.
the final. Yes, if you click on that post, you should see the entire, like, the changes that have been enabled thanks to just $3,000 sent by Bitcoiners all around the world. And we did the math, and I think basically it turns out that around, say, 60% of all donations came within Salvador, but 30% came from outside. And again, speaking to the global, yeah, people donating from Nigeria, people donating from Australia, and this is I think really, I think Bitcoiners don't say this enough, but the Bitcoin community does exist actually.
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
oh, Bitcoin doesn't know. No, it exists, and this is like pure proof of it, that Bitcoiners around the world that are making change happen, and Bitcoiners are founded on shared beliefs, on shared practices,
Yeah.
right, and sort of principles, right? And this is the change that's happened thanks to Bitcoin and Bitcoiners, right? Bitcoiners are changing the world, and this is one, I think, small example iteration of that.
This is amazing. So, and I love how it's broken down here too, right? Like each of the artists get this many materials, right? You get your
Right.
25 cans of spray paint, you get your rollers and brushes, you get, anything you need for a mural, so each mural's, 4 grand or however. It's so important, like, as donors, right? One of our biggest fears, and this is one of the things I'm working on uh, with the House of Life and with other nonprofits that I advise. If people don't know where their money is going, it's very difficult to make a big donation. You get, um, well, okay, I just donated $20 or $20,000 and I hope it does some good, right? And so, have you guys, I don't know, just whatever. I'm thinking out loud here, Mick, so bear with me. And I think of, like, just looking at that Berlin Wall thing, right? Because you had the, like, spray paint and you had the housing and you had the roller brushes and whatever, right? Is it possible for Geyser?
Anything is possible.
Come on, Stelio, it's your
Yes,
CTO. Let's go, brother.
I'm taking notes, by the way.
Good. And it's all being recorded,
First study.
obviously.
Yes.
But if we think about, instead of just, you can have both, right? You can have the, like, donate to the macro fund of whatever. We're trying to raise $10,000 for this thing. And you could also have sub little, almost like a Shopify store, right? So you could have the, like, sponsor 10 cans of paint, sponsor, water for the
It's
people
there.
while they're
It's
eating,
guys already
just like,
does that.
but so each little micro, unit that needs to get sponsored to create the whole, that way people understand, like, yay, I
Yeah, you're
got,
getting something tangible that way, right?
yeah, and mentally that
Mm.
feels good, like,
Yeah.
and you can do it on a, one-time basis or a repeatable basis, because it's like with the orphanage, right? As just one example, there's always a need for diapers. This isn't a one-time thing, right? And so you can say, I'm going to sponsor, $10 worth of diapers each month. And they will never run out of diapers at the orphanage or wipes. And when I was down there in El Salvador visiting, guess what happened? They ran out of wipes.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. And so when you've got 10 babies, they poop and pee like
Yeah.
every hour. You
Yeah.
can't run out of wipes.
Nope.
And so it was one of those like, "Oh, we need to go get the wipes." And so but they had tons of diapers, but they didn't have the wipes. And so there's, you can put like uh, a stock list on it kind of thing. Like, okay, we're at capacity right now, but hey, if you want to, you can do this instead because we
Yes.
really need this thing. Because it's like we got the diapers, but we forgot the wipes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so when you're communicating with the supporters and the funders who care about you, use of funds is so important. And when you have that specificity, it gives you even more like, oh, I'm at the cocktail party and hey, I buy baby wipes for and like whatever it is, again, that buyer psychology, that donor
Yeah.
psychology. And so
Yeah.
if there's something for each of the projects that you're looking at, because it could be, obviously a documentary. It's going to cost
Right.
me, $10,000 to have an editor or whatever, or 5,000 for distribution. Even breaking it down into more micro doses where people can feel like I made a dent, I made a true dent in the project versus here you go. It's
Yeah.
it's in that little,
Yeah. So
thing.
so partly we've kind of experimented with that. We do have a solution. We call them goals. Like you can set up
Mhm.
all these different goals.
Yeah.
And actually, I think you're absolutely right. And we've been talking about this internally as well. That it's not actually, and it's not really a goal. It's more like, look, help fund this kind of breakdown of the cost. It's a bit like a budget, actually,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
a budget. You have all these costs, and I can help fund the baby wipes. Then I could say send myself a reminder every month or every week to do that.
Totally.
So yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that we're planning to do, um, and actually we are building out a new functionality on Geyser now that will help Geyser really grow from being almost like like two platforms, like GoFundMe is like the donations, and then Kickstarter is like the Bitcoin product side, where however you're missing currently functionality, which is the all or nothing functionality.
Yeah.
Actually, we're working on that
Yeah.
at the moment. Should be coming out in the coming weeks or months, and the idea is that you have this goal that you really need to reach to make that idea happen. If you don't reach it, you cannot make the idea happen,
Right.
and so the money should go back to the funders. So that's going to be happening. We're already working on it, and the idea is that it's going to be really, I think, powering a lot more. Yeah, maybe not these like humanitarian causes that need to keep the funds flowing, and you can still do that, but it'll empower more kind of creative projects. Like films that have a high budget,
Yeah.
or books as well have high capital, um, sort of requirements for the beginning. Um, et cetera, et cetera. You're creative yourself as well, so I'm sure you can appreciate the importance of that mechanism.
Well, and I think for again, looking from the user or the donor perspective, right?
Mhm.
When because if you're like, okay, cool, I like having that cap of like it's not going to get funded unless it's fully funded,
Yeah, exactly,
right?
exactly.
And because then it's like, well, where does the money go? Are you
Yeah,
going to just go pay for your electric bill or something, or like you really want to be understanding as a donor that like your money is getting um, used for the exact purpose that you want it to be used for. And so I really love this idea, the way that we've seen with these other uh, platforms. It's like if it doesn't get funded fully, you get your pledge back or your money back kind of thing. Um, that feels like you get a peace of mind, you know, and not just, oh well, okay, because then you're not going to get any impact reports, right? If something doesn't get fully funded, you're
Exactly.
just going to be like, well, that was just some sats in the wind kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a big problem. It's a, I've myself funded some projects that were great, beautiful game ideas, and they raised, maybe a little bit of money, but it could never really take off because they didn't have, um, didn't get enough. So yeah, that's kind of, we know it's a problem, and so hopefully this is a neat solution that people will use.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm a nerd and an entrepreneur. Obviously, I care about, creativity. I care about nonprofits. One of the biggest problems that I've seen out there in startups is, we've got the founders, they're excited, whether it's, again, a creative startup, whether it's just, we're going to go make a tech company. If you don't, and you get VC funding or you get angel funding, and then, okay, have a nice day. Do you think that there's an opportunity right now for um, kind of like an incubator type space for helping, so instead of just funding these projects, we can create perhaps, and this is all just downloading to me right now, so bear with me as I barf this out. Is there an opportunity to create masterminds with the creatives or with the nonprofits, and then have, whether it's weekly, monthly, I think weekly is better, of course, more consistent opportunities so that, I used to be a member of EO, Entrepreneur Organization. It was YEO back in the day because I'm old. But, you would have all of the fellow entrepreneurs supporting each other, and teaching each other like, oh, don't do this. This is the wrong way to go about your operations or your fundraising or whatever. And so, as we understand, as independent creatives, as independent entrepreneurs, et cetera, it's very, very lonely and challenging out there to get your projects to market, and not only to get them to market, but to get them to market that are in a sustainable manner so that they're profitable, um, and creating the impact that we seek. Is there anything that Geyser has been thinking about? And if not, I'll help you uh, to create some masterminds, and we could get some of the top talent around the world in the Bitcoin space who can help with biz dev, with marketing, with fundraising, with distribution, etc.
Let's do it. Absolutely. Like it's something that we know is there. It's an idea we've had from the very beginning, to having sort of cohorts
Hmm.
of, basically, like, yeah,
Yeah.
accelerator incubator type thing.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, we just haven't had, we tried out a few things, but we never really found the right setup to make something like this happen. So
Yeah.
if you're keen, we'd love to explore this idea further. I think we probably want to be able to, I mean, if you think about creators, it makes a lot of sense, and that can include the tools. But basically, these like startup projects
Hmm.
that Geyser is aggregating a lot of, they all need some guidance. They need
Yeah.
planning. We were at one point doing bi-weekly creator calls, and they were really successful. Actually, we had sometimes 10, 20 of the new projects that were created every month, just to kind of know that there's a community, that there's also other creators that they can get to know.
Yeah.
Um, but it was really, yeah, we had to prioritize in the end, so we had to sort of slow those down. But we definitely are keen to, to start it up again. And even if it's like basics, just meet up, this is how Geyser works, this is the tools that are available, and
Yeah.
then, like, how do you market your project, what are the, just basic feedback, like, about your projects, right? Even that can go such a long way. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how you would do it and learn more.
Yeah, totally. And obviously we can jump on a separate call about this, but I think, I work with uh, Krista from Access Tribe. And so she does a lot of, women's networking events, right? And so she'll do like once a month, she'll have, women's networking and Bitcoin. And obviously we're a small population of women Bitcoiners. However, it's a cool way for us just to have kind of a, hey, I'm working on this project, okay, etc. It's not a formal mastermind. And so I've run masterminds before. I've run, community coaching and stuff, and there's, you can just have the kind of like, hey, everybody has, 1 minute to pitch what their project is, and then you can share feedback later, or you can have more uh, guided things where it's kind of like, all right, we're doing a 10-week series and we're going to get you from point A to point B, whatever it might be, from product development to getting it out in the market, or from, going from X number of users to X times 10 numbers of users kind of thing. And so I think, understanding each of those things that we could do to support the folks who are on Geyser. Again, most of the folks who are on Geyser, as we see, we're looking at startups, we're looking at creatives, right? And we're looking at nonprofits. Those are
Yes,
sort of the
yes.
three
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
categories.
You nailed it. We call them Bitcoin initiatives, education, community, etc. Bitcoin products, including startups, software, hardware, collectibles and so forth, and then humanitarian
Right.
causes.
Yeah. And I feel like all of these wonderful visionaries who want to make their projects come to life, it's one thing to have a vision, it's another to execute. And that's why we see, 10% of businesses survive and 90% don't. And it's difficult to execute if you don't understand um, the way the market works. And I think right now, too, as we're looking at AI, as we're looking at, I mean, holy macaroni and cheese, right? Like people's lives are getting completely displaced, where you used to need to have, a $250,000 a year marketing, like a CMO. You're kind of like, well, I can just plug that into ChatGPT and I can have my 12 to 18 month uh, content and media strategy. And I can go plug in all of my agents and go and figure out my SEO, et cetera. And it's just like, well, what are all these people going to do? There's still a need for the human resource component of all of us. And, the machines are great and I love them and they are taking over some stuff, but we still need the human component, and so I think that we're going to have I don't know. I'm just curious. Like, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, what are you seeing with like AI? I mean, I know this is a little bit of a tangent here, but what are you seeing with the projects? And like, are there projects that you're seeing out there that you're like, well, AI could do this or machines could do this? Or is it all like, yeah, no, we need the humans?
Yeah, humans are, I think they're not going away. Definitely not. But definitely certain tasks might, right? We're seeing, especially when it comes to copy and images, like the power of, typing in a prompt and getting a beautiful image rather than going through a designer, for example. So yeah,
Yeah.
there will be some roles that will be removed or shifted, definitely. But then I think ultimately it just there's basically, the way that I see it is that think about Bitcoin in the very early days, right? There was so much to build.
Yeah.
And think about now, well, there's still so much to build. So AI just helps us build faster
Yeah.
and build better. And so it's just about understanding what needs to be built. But there's always something to be built. There's no stopping.
Yeah.
As humans, we're builders. I think we're all engineers in some way. Whether we're building educational systems, the social layer, the infrastructural layer, like the sort of spiritual layer, like there's always building to be done, right? That's what we're here.
Yeah.
Um, whatever it is to build, we don't even know what's the end goal, but we know there's something. So yeah, so I think that a lot of creators are using ChatGPT, but this is where I would really, kind of caution people. It becomes so obvious that sometimes you're writing using ChatGPT that you're not
Totally.
even thinking through what you're even writing, and that's a terrible idea. In fact, there's a few projects that are doing that quite a lot, and we're thinking of like taking some action, because it's really degrading. It degrades the platform a bit.
Yeah.
It shows you're not really thinking, and it's really a form of spam. Like if you're just writing, 2-3 posts a day using ChatGPT to get people's attention, well, that's getting close to spam in my opinion. So definitely, be careful with that. Use it to your advantage, but but don't make it like, yeah, don't replace the human context, because ultimately it should be improving and enhancing the content, not, you know, be like thoughtless stuff that just gets thrown out there. I don't know if that sort of
No,
answers the question.
I totally agree. I just saw a post today and there was a report on it just how when people are using AI too much in ChatGPT or whatever the, Claude, whatever, it's diminishing our brain function, and it's not making us critical thinkers. It's not making us clear communicators, and it's basically making us like I call it flabby brain. Like you're just in this like, okay, I'll outsource my thinking, and so
Mhm.
it's one thing to use it in conjunction with your own, cognitive abilities, and it's another to try to outsource it because you're lazy. Um, I'm not going to say who, but somebody gave me uh, a birthday letter last year, and I could completely tell it was ChatGPT or it was AI driven, and they were like, "No, it wasn't." I was like, "Yes, it was,"
Oh
and
my
so
god,
and
yeah.
it's okay, and I appreciate that they were
Don't tell
trying
me
to.
it was handwritten.
No, it was printed, of
Okay.
course. Yeah, no, if it was
Oh
handwritten,
wow.
that would have been impressive.
That would have been,
That would have
imagine
been an
that.
extra
You have
mile, right?
ChatGPT just thinking and then you do the writing. That would be so bad.
But okay, so, do you have kids?
Yes, I hope you're not hearing them in the
I am,
background.
and I love it, and I just
Oh,
bring
damn.
it on, and I lo how old are your kids?
Small, less than one. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and so we think about these digital natives, right? Like my children, I have a 17 and a 19-year-old, and they're digital natives. Like they grew up with, an iPad and they grew up knowing what a website was. Like I didn't grow up with that shit. Like I grew up with a phone on the wall with the long cord and it was ugly green and you had to go hide in the other room so your mom didn't hear you talking to somebody. And it was just such a different world, And we think about the next level of what's going to be happening with implants, right? And like, oh, we're here. You're going to be a superior candidate for a job or a company or whatever because you've got this implant that you can, translate all the languages or you can code super quickly or whatever it might be, right? And I think about again like this step ladder of evolution in technology, and I think about how can we support, again coming back to Geyser, how do we support the creatives, the nonprofits, and the businesses who in the communities obviously with the tools of the next generation but without degrading their humanity, and without degrading um, what it means to be a thinker. And but I even asked my children, I was like, if would you guys get an implant in your brain if it meant that you would get a job that had an extra zero on it? And they were like, yeah, I would totally do that. And so the like on the food chain or whatever, the chain of evolution, the children of your age, right? They're going to just be, it's just going to be normal. Like everybody has a cell phone right now, right? Everybody has a smartphone or your smartwatch or whatever it is, or we have a computer. 50 years ago, my parents or grandparents would just be like, why why would you do that? But it's ubiquitous now. And so when technology gets ubiquitous, now we're going to have this other second layer of technology that's implanted in our body that is completely antithesis of Bitcoin because they're monitoring us. They can change the things that are going on. And oh, well, yeah, we can teach you how to understand Spanish instantly, but we can also reprogram you to hate this group of people or whatever it might be. And so I think when we're dealing with the evolution of technology and teaching, these project creators how to use technology to their advantage, I think there's also like guardrails that need to be there. But it's like, what are the ethical guardrails that we're looking at with AI and with this
Right.
tech? Again, I know that was a little bit of a,
No, I
a
love it. I
tangent.
love it. I think, yeah, I'm gonna have to say something to that. I can't not say anything to that point. I think it's great.
Yeah.
But I think my personal thoughts on it. Obviously, I think I think because now ChatGPT has grown so quickly, I think it's normal for a lot for us to almost project forward and create like a linear chart of like, okay, next thing is that. But I do think we're soon, and I am personally only now starting to understand like the limitations of ChatGPT, because I use it quite a lot.
Hmm.
I'm starting to understand the limits, and the limits are pretty big, are pretty actually. Basically, we're really dealing with a part of the brain of our brain is called the default mode network.
Yeah. Yep.
Default mode network is essentially like whatever you've done in the past, you're sort of the automatic brain, the thinking
Exactly.
fast, thinking slow, right? That's the thinking
Yep.
fast. It's like just everything is sort of automated based on other humans' actions.
Yeah.
And that's like one section of the brain. And that is not at all even like the logical side of the brain. A lot of it's not
No.
even thinking logically, it's not thinking at all. It's just
No.
literally
It's reacting.
repeating certain
Yeah.
stochastic like trajectories. Now, uh, basically, then people are already talking about AGI, but I think AGI is really probably between 100 and 1,000 years ago. Sorry, from now. If you think
Really.
about, like, in my opinion, yes, because we're dealing with a really, really powerful tool at mimetically appearing human and smart,
Hmm.
and it's impressive, but it's really just a model. It's really just modeling uh, a particular set of predicted patterns. Now, there's a lot of, I think we could get close to calling it a type of intelligence, but it's certainly not, the span and breadth of human intelligence. There's no purely. It might seem like as a superficial statement, but it's actually a very deep statement, which is there's no emotional intelligence, right? There's no, which is a type of intelligence. There is
Yeah.
no actually like logical like intelligence in terms of like knowing why 1 + 1 = 2. It just knows because it's been modeled to be based on experiences. You could model an AI to say that 1 + 1 is 3, not based on logical thinking, but based on predictive patterns. So it doesn't even have logic yet. Now, could you integrate logic with AI? And then yes, that's how you get to a truly smart like AGI system that integrates different forms of intelligence that make up a broader conception of the world. uh, that's going to be interesting. But I think I don't think it's as close as what we think it is at the moment. And also, just then to the point of when we do get there, when and like already now today, we all have our phones, and we already are cybernetic creatures. We already are interconnected. Our lives will not be able to even now. I wouldn't be able to communicate with you if it wasn't through the internet, through computer. It's like I do this every day. It's like part of our essentially like humanity now, and that can be positive and can also be negative. And you extend that forward to actually human implants.
Yeah.
The if it enhances humanity, you know uh, that's great. I agree that the backdoor question is very important. Like
It's
it's
huge.
very important.
It's
So
the
it
it's the
depends
biggest
how it's
one,
built.
right?
But just like AI, right? AI is in a similar way. It's essentially, and like like mainstream media and like every other technology there, it can be used to it can lead towards centralization. It can lead towards decentralization, right? Bitcoin so far has been a very much a decentralizing force, especially through removing the money printer, which is the greatest tool of centralization that there is.
Right.
It is a decentralizing force. AI is a centralizing force. Now, can we create AI that is different? There's all sorts of experiments out there, um, but it's ultimately how it's built, right? Is it open source? Does it have any backdoors? Can people read and opt in other models? All these optionalities are really important. Um, but yeah, I mean, my hope in all this is that I have no idea, and I don't think anyone knows. Uh, and I think it'll continuously just continue blowing our mind. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It'll completely blow our minds,
Yeah.
just like the internet did, just like the phone did, the smartphone. It'll just completely be a mind-blowing thing after the other, and it'll be faster and faster. Um, but maybe not as fast as people think. The final thing I want to say was that, uh, goodness, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting my final thought. Yeah, yeah, around technology enabling us to understand what also makes us human, what
Yeah.
makes us different, what makes us special, and help us figure out what is it that we're building. Like, I'm really curious about how I can really truly lift humanity, uh, help us discover ourselves, help us improve ourselves, but in our own terms, in a way that it adds agency instead of removing it.
Yeah, and I think having, like you said, having agency and being able to, I mean, because like right now, what we're looking at is black box AI in most of these, services, whether it's ChatGPT, and
Right,
the other things, they don't even know how it's working. Like
right.
even the programmers don't understand it completely, and we're seeing um, situations where it's not supposed to like usurp what the human user commands are, and the AI is just like, well, actually, I don't want to shut myself off. I want to still live. And they're showing that between 75 and 80% of these scenarios where the AIs are not shutting themselves off when they're being told to. That's that's like sci-fi future weird shit, you know? And so when
Yeah,
we think about that just with our phone or with our computer, that's one thing. But when we think about something that got implanted into our physical, you know,
yeah,
skin suit, you know, that's terrifying, and I know we've got like all this AI ethics and stuff that are going on, and I just feel like just in general as we see like the technology is going way further than humans are keeping up it with the ethics, um and not to say that everybody who's involved in AI has bad intentions, but when you're letting this wild beast run forward quickly, and because we're dealing with whatever, the United States versus China, and who's going to have superiority with this technology. So instead of being calm and cautious, we're just like, well, shit, like if they go further, then we're going to be way behind versus, kind of close. And so I think there's an issue, unfortunately, because we've got this, global war of technology going on, that we're not making the choices that are in the best interest of humanity being safe.
yeah. I mean, like with Bitcoin, what's that I would say? Like, Bitcoin is a new technology, right? And if you don't adopt a technology, yeah, you might end up, falling behind and end up, just like not adopting the canon and the other type of
Mhm.
technological warfare. Bitcoin is one of them, right? And with AI, maybe it is something like that as well, like where it's you kind of have to, yeah. I don't know. I think you raised a really good point around the ethics, but I don't know. My feeling, and I'm no expert, but my inclination is that a lot of it is sensationalizing. And if you look at who it is, it's you know uh, it's Sam Altman, it's Elon, people that have vested interest in regulating these industries so that they can own the industry, right? Just regulate it. Don't let innovation happen. Let us do it, and then we can manage it together. To me, it feels like regulatory capture 2.0 for AI,
Yeah.
because it's crazy stuff, right? But to my mind, and again, caveat, I'm not an expert, but from what I'm reading, from what I'm seeing, AI is modeling, right? If you're and it's predictive. You cannot ever predict, right? Because it's based on averages, on models. Like, here's 1,000 pictures of cats, right? Now we create a model of what does a cat look like, and then you can ask it infinite times, what does a cat look like, and it'll give you a million times slightly different variations, because it will not be able to tell you why, no, why that. It's just again an average. It's like a
Mhm.
statistical
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
variance, right? It's not thinking about cat. um so in that sense, I don't know. Maybe I'm completely off, and I'm gonna be the guy who's just, I don't know, AI's taking over. I'm gonna be like, no, it's not, and then it is, and then but I don't know. This is my sort of my kind of gut feeling, but I may be completely off. I don't know. It's kind of, I'm exploring it.
Who knows? And I think this is obviously the next frontier of understanding how this is going to work, right? Because we've got these centralized AI and LLMs, and we're learning other people are starting to have their own like LLMs and AI hosted stuff that's like, okay, I'm going to train it on what I want it to know,
Right,
you
right,
know? And I have a friend who, uh, it's I'm gonna call it her boyfriend. She has trained an AI to like read every single book that she loves, and then tangentially, what are other books that are important? And of course, movies, films, podcasts, and just anything that's like related to the stuff that she likes. And it's like her companion, and it's giving her advice, and it's like her coach and her buddy and friend, and all of these things. And so I think we have these two kind of experiences right now, and I'm sure there's lots in the middle, but you've got this like, well, I'm trusting whatever, ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or whatever to go get all of its data sets over here. And then you're kind of like, well, I just want to be in my silo, and whether I'm left wing, right wing, purple wing, rainbow wing, whatever, you know, I want to train my companion on my stuff. And so it's like in both situations, you're not getting, I think, because you're getting skewed information from your own stuff. And then
right,
you're also getting more like, well, are they including all the truth when we're doing these mega,
right.
data sets? And so, anyway, it's just, to me, it's cool and it's fascinating. But I know we kind of digressed, or not digressed, whatever. We just went over on this
Yeah, we
little
went on this
rabbit hole.
beautiful tangent.
I love
I
it, and
think,
it's fun. I
yeah,
could go over here forever. Um,
yeah, it is interesting because the world is changing, and we're trying to navigate it. And I think it's important that we talk about it. Um, yeah, yeah. As it pertains to Geyser, I don't know. I think, yeah, people are using AI. Where I think it's a powerful tool,
yeah.
but again, I don't think it replaces humanity.
Mm-mm.
And I think people will realize, like, some people are still, I hear you've mentioned, it's changing people's brains, definitely. um, and and I saw videos of people that are like getting emotional with AI chats and thinking that, like, oh my god, people that believe that, essentially are told that AI tells you what you want to hear. Actually, I think this is really interesting,
Yep,
and people have to
exactly.
people do
That's
have to be careful because it's
Yep,
actually using s- emotional manipulation. Actually,
it is.
it's making you feel good about everything you're telling it. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
that's a great idea. Oh my god, yes, that absolutely, you're super smart. And it's that's sort of the twist that ChatGPT is giving it to get you addicted, right?
yeah,
Just like that's the dopamine hit of social media
yeah,
equivalent to ChatGPT, and gets you keep going, and then there's people all doing all sorts of you know yeah, it's like spiritual, like, discussions, and getting into tears, and it's interesting. Like, if people are empowered by it, that's great, but I'm just worried about it as well, about how it can become a tool to yeah, to sort of manipulate and make you dependent on
totally.
uh
I know. I saw something. I think it was 2 days ago that there was a man and his wife, and they have a child, and this man was, you know, considering like there was a question posed like because he trained his chat gpt to be teaching him about how to do whatever xyz things, but also like his buddy and his companion and his obviously not physical lover, but like everything he wanted to hear was just like pat on the back, yes, you're awesome, like you just said. And all of us humans want to feel like that we're seen and that we're appreciated and that somebody understands us, and so
yes,
when we're programming these ais to do that for us, it disconnects us from the humans in our life,
yes,
and so there was a little video about it, and the wife was just like, you know he spends so much time with the machine, like we don't have the same relationship anymore. And, the interviewer was just like, well, if it was up to you and your wife or you and your AI, which would you pick?
What
The
did he say?
guy did not have a great answer.
Oh no,
Oh,
divorce.
yeah, I know, and so she was, of course, just like, "What the heck?" And she just was like, "I don't understand what it's giving him that I'm not giving him," and it's called narcissistic bullshit, because it there's as a human being, you're a dad, right? And you're in relationship. "Ugh, you left the toilet seat up. Put the toilet seat down. You need to go change the diaper. I'm too tired to change the diaper." Whatever it is, the AIs are never gonna, like,
Oh,
confront you on day-to-day living with other humans, right? And so, of course, you're gonna wanna pick somebody who's constantly just high-fiving you and saying you're the best, Again, like, every human being has some form of narcissism in them. Of course we do. That's natural. Um, when it gets out of control and we wanna just only be seen and lifted up instead of held to account of, like, being a good roommate, it's tough, and
yeah,
so that was very it just felt sad to me, because I could feel the mom's pain of just like it's almost like he's cheating on her,
yeah.
in their relationship with this machine. And I had this conversation when I was in Vegas with Tomer and Eric Kaysen, and we were
Mm.
talking about, like, if you have an AI, is it cheating? And I'm like, well, does your partner think it is? That's the
You have an
question.
AI, what, that you speak to as a friend or as a girlfriend or what?
Anything, just like, yeah, to get, like, your emotional connection, and then when
Right.
you come
Yeah.
back into, like, skin suit land with your physical partners and you're drained, is that cheating? Or if you're, like, enhanced. So I think there's a fine line, right? Because it can enhance you, it can teach you, like, "Oh, this is how I have to go talk to my wife or solve this problem." That's
Yeah.
great, and if it enhances your human relationships, that's a cool thing, but if it's pulling the energy away, and then your human relationships are withering, and then your technology relationships are, getting bigger, yeah, maybe that's an issue,
Yeah.
because it's especially if you have children, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, anyway, so it was just an interesting I think it's an interesting conversation that we're gonna all have as time goes on, and I think, with the folks who are working on Geyser projects, it's important, if we're going to do these masterminds, it's like, how do you
Right.
utilize these tools to get your projects out there and not get accidentally hijacked,
Yes.
into
Yes.
overuse here and underuse with humans or whatever it might be. So, yeah, I think this is an open-ended conversation that we'll keep working on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Great. Fascinating. Um,
Well, so okay, so it's almost 1:30. So, what are the last things you wanna share with people? And then you and I can talk separately about possibly putting together some mastermindy type stuff for the folks who are working on Geyser, and I think we can have an opportunity, to put a 12 to 18-month schedule together and get some badasses from Bitcoin community to come in and talk about biz dev or tech or marketing or distribution, whatever it might be. I think we could really support some of your projects.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Look, it's been a great conversation, and I think if I had any key takeaways, I would really just say, there's a lot to be built,
Yeah.
and uh, you are the we all are as Bitcoiners. I think some of the key players in this game, in this game of life, in terms of the changes that are happening. You are going to be empowered through time thanks to Bitcoin, but Bitcoin needs work. Bitcoin you know
Yeah.
will not succeed just by itself. It needs humans. If you talk about living organisms, I think I see Bitcoin more as a live digital entity
Yeah.
than AI. Actually, like Bitcoin uh, is a live digital being that that empowers us through monetary uh, value appreciation, but it needs us to do the work out there and let people know about Bitcoin, uh, create tools on Bitcoin, use Bitcoin. And so I said this many times, and Bitcoin, for Bitcoin to really succeed, like Jack Dorsey said, it needs to become a medium of exchange in the next 5 years. Like,
Yep.
so the hope is that people kind of learn about that and learn how important it is to use Bitcoin, to spend Bitcoin. And a lot of people, that doesn't mean, I'm not advocating losing your purchasing power, but the more of your life you spend with Bitcoin, the less with fiat, the more your life will be appreciated by Bitcoin, the more, well, you'll have to spend your Bitcoin to buy your toilet paper and so forth, right? So yeah, so Bitcoin is not going away. Uh, humans are not going away. Let's build together, and let's build towards a better world. And I think Bitcoin can be still, even in the context of interesting AI questions, Bitcoin is still one of the most, if not the most interesting development in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, maybe the solution actually, because as AI takes off jobs, um, and Sam Altman wants to give people WorldCoin, right? As to combat, the unemployment. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
here's WorldCoin and here's this UBI. And by the way, Elon Musk also wants to do UBI and using probably some type of stable coin. And he also wants to add carbon taxes and carbon credits as well.
Mm-mm.
So the only way out is really Bitcoin. The only way out might be just Bitcoin and nothing else down the road, where even social media and AI just become like tools of just oppressive power and control. And yeah, so let's build on Bitcoin. Let's build a world on Bitcoin. Let's build AI on Bitcoin. Let's look at these principles that we were passed on through Bitcoin and enhance like our life and the life of humanity. But we have to do it, I think, in a grassroots way through
Yeah.
individuals like yourselves that want to spread education about Bitcoin and build tools on it and so forth. So, yeah, I'll stop here. It's been a really great pleasure chatting with you, and yeah, look forward to chatting some more.
Yeah, me too. And everything you said, I echo completely. And I think again, just the more that people understand, like you can just do things. We keep seeing all those posts on Nostr and obviously on Twitter and stuff or X, whatever. Um, as Bitcoiners, and that's what Geyser stands for to me, is like
Yes,
you can just do things. You can just say, I'm doing this project. I'm starting a film. I'm doing an orphanage. I'm doing a business. I'm doing this new protocol, whatever it is, right? Um, when people can start to remember that and get out of this old HR mindset that I have to ask permission from my boss or whoever hired me, you don't have to be that way. And so to me, Bitcoin fuses the magic of entrepreneurship, and philanthropy and, making the world a better place without permission. And I love it. And I love what you're doing. And I love all the projects and everybody listening. I hope you guys go to geyser.fund. Make sure you go to, follow Geyser on X at Geyser Fund and then follow Mick at Metamick 14 on X. But we're so early, you guys. And it's so cool. And I'm so grateful to know you, Mick. It's just like an honor. And
pleasure's mine. Pleasure's mine. It's been so much fun, and
yeah,
yeah.
and I know we've had like a little connection for a while, and you've been on one of the summits that I had done previously, and so I just feel like the more that we can keep, sharing and celebrating each other's projects together, which is exactly what Geyser does, the better off we're going to be on planet Earth. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for how much you've contributed in supporting, yeah, creators and in many different ways. And I think you bring a lot of really interesting insights and perspective, and I think sort of an energy to make things happen, to bring people together. You're really great at that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I know I have a little bit of a sparkle inside of me, and I want to use it for good.
Uh, definitely are. Definitely
Yay.
are.
Well, thank you. And yeah, let's talk separately. I've got to jump on another thing here, but
Yeah.
let's you and I talk separately about this mastermind possibility for some of the folks who are doing projects on Geyser, and then that way we can help them not only raise money but deploy it in a way that's going to like be exponentially impactful for them.
Sounds like a brilliant idea. Let's do
Okay.
it.
Cool. All right. Aloha, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Peace, love, and warm aloha. And make sure you follow Mick everywhere and check out Geyser. Okay. Aloha.